nursing home. It's a nursing home where I go. Now they got some white students in there learning to be nurses. And them girls are just as nice as they can be. And I enjoy waiting on them. I treat them just as nice as I can treat them. And they all come in. Hey, Nephew, how you doing? Fine. Hey, Nephew, good night, Nephew, good night. We'll see you tomorrow. I said, okay. So it all depends on how you treat a person. That's all I can say. You can make a snake love you if you treat it right. If you don't treat it right, he bites you.
Nipton Nelson Hill was a man of loyalty, dependability, and integrity. A man who by the end of his life in 2009 had garnered the respect and admiration of all who knew him. This is his story.
Well, my year birthday, September 23rd, 1914. My mother's name was Sugar May Hill. She died when we were small, 4 and 5 years old. She died from childbirth. The only thing I can remember, I heard the old lady say, these children gonna have a hard time because the mother's dead.
Mother, the children have a hard time. Mother, the children have a hard time.
And my daddy's name was George Hill. Well, my father was a one-horse farmer, and he done all right until, as far as I know, until Mama died, and then the workload fell on him, and as far as I know, he thought he could handle it, but he found out boll weevil hit the crop for the last 2 years, and then after that, he discovered it. He wasn't going to be able to do any more farming, so he left there and moved to McCollum, Georgia. That's just below Noonan, just above Noonan. And he stayed there a year, and he left there and moved to Fairburn. And he stayed in Fairburn a year, and he left Fairburn and moved to Union City. And that's where we spent the biggest part of our growing up time in Union City. And me and my other brother, the one next to me, was we was big sized boys, 8, 9, 10 years old. We couldn't do nothing much, but we learned how to plow, we learned how to take care of animals, and I'd run up and down the road fishing and hunting, sweeping yards and cutting grass and doing anything I could do to find some money. A fellow by the name of McCon opened up that filling station there in the West End. There's a Conoco station. And I used to go up there on Saturday and help his boys out. He had one man called Big Boy. And I could go there and help Big Boy out, and I learned how to change tires and wash cars and pump up air and check oil and all of that. And I could do that on a Saturday and make $2 or $3. I was waking up at that filling station in the West End when a boy was working for Delta named Robert White. And Robert and I and all of us used to work over there with these, and they had them great big old two-winged airplane they called Connors. And they were hard to keep clean. They're slinging grease and everything all over. But they had to get them ready, had to get one ready to go into New York every morning, one going to Miami. So they needed some more help, and we'd go down and help them about an hour at night. Some of us would clean out the inside, and some of the rest of them would be on the outside. And that'd give you about $2 or $3 a week. And that was big money. So Robert got a job over there checking with Delta, and he worked with Delta about a year and a half or 2 years by himself. And he needed some help, and he come got me one evening and asked me did I want to help him. I told him, yeah, I want to help him. I went out there and me and him worked. The man hired me that same evening, August the 6th, 1935.
Nip worked as a porter at the airport for Eastern and Delta. It was there that he first met the man who would become his mentor and have a profound effect on the rest of his life.
I was helping Eastern to check. I was helping George to check out their baggage. And boy, I was really hustling that night trying to make a tip. And Mr. Woolman, I seen that big old heavy-set white man standing there. I said, yes, sir, boss, can I help you? He said, no, not right now. I went on back to helping George to get Eastern baggage out. When I got all of that done, he didn't say nothing else to me. But what he done, he asked George, he asked Pat Higgins, who was I and who did I work for? And he told me, he work for you. And he said, do? He said, well, that seemed like a hustler. And then that's when he started talking to me every time he come over here. And he started coming over here every weekend. And me and him would he'd take a bucket after I got everything kind of half cleaned up. If I didn't have a bucket, I'd take a bucket. And he'd go down through that hanging, he'd pick up all the nuts and bolts that they dropped out there that didn't check in and put them in that. Safety wire, tape, anything that they didn't use, all of it, he'd take it. We'd dump it in this barrel. And he'd tell me how much it cost and how much money we were saving the company. And they got a barrel out there right now that you can go to and pick up good stuff out of it that me and him picked up. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was out there walking around with the big bowl. I had a 29 Ford coupe with a rumble seat in it, and I kept that thing polished and shined up. And kept it looking down there, all the gas was running. I was the only guy around there, I could have got down there, had an automobile. And them the girls asked me to like a dog after a rabbit.
One such young woman, named Willie, was very close to Nip and had in fact known him since childhood.
And she used to ride a trolley to Lang Avenue there in Hitchfield. And she'd get off of that and walk over there to the terminal. Of course, I was working the midnight shift, and I'd get off at 8 o'clock. And she'd stand out there side there, Mr. Higgins, that was the vice president here. Mr. Higgins' office, and wait till I got off. And Mr. Higgins got to wait and talk to her and mess with her. Everybody knowed her. And that's when this guy walked into this proper Eastern Airlines and got chewed up. That's when he called me in the office and said, they know that I wasn't sleeping much because that car couldn't let me sleep. I'd get that thing and me and Carlo together, ride all over South Georgia. So he told me, he said, Nip, I said, yes, sir. He said, you ain't getting no sleep. I said, yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. He said, no, you ain't. Don't tell me no lie, 'cause I done checked it and I know. Say you ain't get no sleep. Now, if you don't get some sleep, we're going to have to fire you. And the only way you're going to be able to get some sleep, you're going to have to start a family. You're going to have to get married. I said, get married? I said, yes. I said, I got to find a girlfriend first, Mr. Higgins. He said, well, what's the matter with Willie? I said, oh, she don't want to marry. He went back and called Willie and all. Willie said, how come you and Nip don't get married? She said, oh, he don't want me, mister. And that's what messed it up. When he called me back and Willie said, you didn't want to marry her. I said, oh, I had never asked her. He said, well, I said, you better ask her, because if you don't, we going to fight. And so I didn't ask her nothing. I just went back and bought some license and got married. She got pregnant directly after I married her. And I had to go to work then to pay a doctor bill after that doctor told me she had this condition and she had flea virus. And that blood, like blood clots, that's what it was. Her blood was clotting.
Nip worked hard at several jobs to make his new family a success. This industrious attitude gained the admiration of certain powerful people.
I was tending bar out at Capital City Club one night, and Mr. Woman come up and order a drink. And he asked me, he said, the next morning he called, that Monday morning he called me in the office. He said, Nip, sir? I said, yes, sir. He said, you making any money doing that? I said, yes, sir. That's pretty good. He said, how much you making? I said, well, sometimes me and my wife together make $400 or $500. He said, you do? I said, yes. What are you doing with the money? I said, I'm going to save it. He said, well, that's good. What you going to do when you save it? He said, well, I said, I'm going to buy me a house. And that's what he told me. He said, well, don't you buy now a house. He said, you buy your lot and build your house. That's what I did. He said another thing, he said, if I see you riding around here in a Cadillac automobile with a cigar stuck in your mouth, say, I'm going to fight you. He said, but if you need any kind of help, let me know, and I'll do everything I can you, as long as you do what I tell you. He said, you let me do the telling and you do the doing. And we went on like that for years and years and years.
Mr. Woolman hired Nip full-time to drive a truck into Atlanta daily, making pickups and deliveries. In this position, Nip became known to many of Atlanta's corporate leaders. He became a de facto public relations representative for Delta, always quick with current information about Delta's flight schedule. And Mr. Woolman was never shy about showing his respect and appreciation for Nip's dedication, even if they just bumped into one another in downtown Atlanta.
Mr. Woolman and a bunch of men come across the street in a walk, and I stopped and let them all get by. And he the last one in the line. He didn't go. He come over to the truck and stopped to ask me how was I doing. So he showed like he acted like he thought a lot of me. So I had to do the same thing. He didn't take no vacation, and I didn't either.
Even when Nip was called into the service during World War I, Mr. Woolman did what he could to help him out.
He wrote me a nice letter and gave it to me and said, when you finish your boots and get in your commanding officer, you give him this letter. And I was up here in Bainbridge, Maryland. And I gave that man, that commanding officer, a letter. He read it and he said, boy, I said, you're a smart boy. I said, no, sir.
Thanks to Mr. Woolman's recommendations, the Navy used Nip in various service positions, which, by the end of the war, put Nip in high favor of his commanding officer.
But the commander also wrote me a nice letter. He wanted me to move my whole family to Panama City. and he wanted me to let my wife and two children go, and they gonna pay me my same mustard out pay to them, and he gonna give me another promotion from the chief steward to chief petty officer. And I would be making somewhere about $700-800 a month. And it's gonna give us a place to stay and a car to drive. That's what I had. I never had a car I could drive. I wanted to take that thing up so bad. I said, well, I better not do that. I said, because Mr. Woolman been good to my family. Anything my wife wanted, all she had to do is to call my wife, he got it for her. You would think she's white the way she treated him. And when I got out, you know what I done? I carried that letter out there and I showed it to Mr. Woolman. And he read it. He snipped, said, I'm proud of you. Yeah, we gonna grow. I said, well, good.
And grow they did. He eventually became supervisor of a fleet of pickup and delivery trucks for Delta. At one point, Mr. Woolman even asked Nip if he and Willie would like to make some extra money laundering napkins for the in-flight beverage and meal service. Never one to miss an opportunity, Nip jumped at the chance. When Nip was recalled into the Navy during World War II, Willie was able to maintain both the laundry business and her household with the help of her Aunt Annie.
Fine woman. She'd come out there and clean up, and kept that boy clean, and kept that laundry going back to Delta in good shape, just like it had been if I was there. And then when I got out, it done got too big to do it in the house. I went out there and built a garage type of, well, it was a garage, and started doing it in it.
And so, from these humble beginnings, and Mr. Woolman's support, Nip and Willie were able to start what eventually became a very successful dry cleaning business. Nip also helped to found the Delta Employee Credit Union.
I was just first started it all, but I didn't have enough money to do no good, so I'd loan them all I had. And Mr. C.P. Lyle and Mr. Hawkins, I told them about it, and they started. And of course, they was able to lend more money than I was. So they said, let's just start a credit union. I said, fine. So we went to Mr. Woolman and asked him would it be all right. And he said, yeah, as long as you get the paperwork straightened out. And that's what we done. We went and got it all straightened out. And every payday they take out so much money for payroll deduct. And I ain't never changed it. I added it to it.
Throughout his career, even with Mr. Woolman's support, Nip had to constantly struggle against the forces inherent in being a black man in the American South. But he always maintained his personal sense of dignity, integrity, and patience.
I was studying airplane engines, on inline engines. Me and a white boy by the name of Holker Smith. He'd go there at Air Supply and buy a book on how to splice cables, how to rebuild inline engines, and it'll tell you how to do most everything. And me and that boy would sit down and we'd question one another about it. We was our own teacher. So when the man got ready to give out the license to Hawk, and said, Hawk, said, come up after a while, said, we're gonna give you a test on your airplane license. Hawk went up, said, all right. Well, Hawk went up there and the man kept him up there about an hour or two, give him his license, and he come back, Hawk was smiling up something. Cause Hawk was making $9 a week and I was making $8. So Hawk got to be an airplane mechanic helper. And I didn't get nothing. So next time Mr. Ryan come down about a month, he come down about once a month. See how everything is going. I said, Mr. Ryan, I said, when are you gonna give me my test for my license? He said, we don't give niggas no license test. I said, what'd you say, Mr. Ryan? He said, we don't give niggas no test for no license. I said, all right, thank you, sir. And I didn't let that bother me. Now I got that off my mind. I get a book to some white mechanic. I think the book cost about $4 or $5. I give it to him. I don't think I could change nothing. I would try to work with it. I would try. You get more result out of working with a program than you do out of working against a program. Everybody ain't gonna think like everybody's not gonna act right. But I don't have no trouble out of going nowhere with where my white brothers and sisters are. I go in there and I treat them nice, and they treat me nice, and I get ready to go, I go. The first Christmas party, the Delta give, they had a fellow there, Mr. Lyle. He had a great big long one, and big old firecracker. And I went up there, and he walked behind me, and they had a little fish pond right at the back door. And I was finna go in there, and he threw that thing under my feet, and it went off. I jumped in that fish pond and got wringing wet. You know what I done? Went back out there and got in my old Ford coupe and went back down here to Plunkett Town, changed clothes and got back in it and come back over here, and they didn't bother me no more after that.
Perhaps one of the most surprising situations occurred when Nip went to apply for a car loan from the very credit union that he helped to found.
Mr. A said, we don't loan niggas no car. I said, you don't? He said, no. I said, well, why? He said, your job is not dependable. You might be fired for a night. I didn't do a thing, but walked right out of his office. I went up to Mr. Woolman. I was ready to quit Delta. I went in there. I said, boss, I said, I got some bad news for you. He said, what's that? I said, I was down there trying to borrow some money from Mr. Ace to buy me a car with. And I said, Mr. Ace told me that I might get fired in a minute. And I said, if I've been working for you 12 years, and my job and my work performance is not good enough to trust me with $2,500 after 12 years, I need to look for me a job. He said, who told you that? I said, Mr. Ace downstairs. He said, Miss Fitzgerald, get Mr. Ace on the phone. She got Mr. Ace on the phone. And when he got to it, Mr. Ace was ready to let me have $100,000. People tried to get Mr. Woolman to put me out of business out there in that laundry. Y'all, you didn't know that, did you? They wrote Mr. Woolman a bunch of bad letters about giving me that opportunity to do that laundry and let me keep the opportunity.
Through his family's involvement at the laundry, Nip was able to pass on his belief in the value of hard work to his sons Carl and Freddie. Through the 60s and 70s, the business expanded, as did his responsibilities at Delta. But he was up to the challenge, and his final title at Delta was Supervisor of Ground Transportation.
My education wouldn't let me go too much higher. They tried, and they gave me tested. And a lot of people wanted me to go higher. They worked for Delta, but I just didn't have the education. I didn't have the time to get it. In fact, I done got too old to be interested in it. And my children were grown and gone. I had a house paid for. I had a little stock, so it wasn't no use of me getting out here and killing myself trying to get a reputation made. Now, if I started back in the 40s and put it together, maybe I could have done it. Maybe it would have done it. But I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. Because if I'd have started doing anything like back in the 40s, they said, where is he getting the money from? And who is furnishing the money? Young men got to have an education. And he got to have these things educated too. If they ain't educated, he might have to not use this one time like it right now and started using these. And you got people don't know what to do with these. And they're gonna be lost.
Just before his retirement in 1985, Nip became the first employee ever to achieve 50 years of service. At the Delta Employee Heritage Day festivities that year, he received a